Namaste. My name is Devdutt Patnaik. Whenever we study Indian culture and Indian history, I realize that many people don't discuss what is happening around the world. No culture exists in isolation. There is geopolitical influences. So India is influenced by events which are happening in Europe and is influenced by happenings in China. China is on the east, Europe is on the west. And therefore, I decided to try to figure out what is the connection, what is happening in China at the time things are happening in India. And I made this lovely table. It's, of course, an approximate table. But then you realize something very, very interesting about different cultures. You know, what is happening in China when the Harappan cities are being built? What is happening in India when the pyramids are being built? When the Vedic civilization is emerging in India, what is happening in China? When Alexander comes to India, what is happening in China? The Kushan kings play a very important role in India. And the Kushans are related to the Chinese. They come from the southern eastern part of China. The Koshang, the King Kanishka, whose empire extends from Afghanistan to India, has connections with China. Perhaps one of the earliest big military connections. He's a nomadic community which moves away from China through Central Asia and conquers a vast part of the world from Afghanistan to India. This is happening around 1900 years ago, somewhere when the Shatavahan kings are ruling India and the Han dynasty is in China. And that's interesting because Han is considered the golden age of China, and then you see that India has the Gupta period, and this is the time when Rome is becoming powerful and Christianity is spreading in Europe. And then you see the Tang dynasty over here. This is when Chinese monks are coming to India to study Buddhism. So the Buddhist influence is coming. Han is when the Confucian influence is coming. Buddhist influence is coming here, but Buddhism has changed because Buddhism is 1,000 years old by this time. There's Mahayana Buddhism, which is a very different form of Buddhism, which is emerging. This is the Pala kings are ruling the eastern part of India. Chola kings are ruling the southern part of India. What is interesting is China is constantly centered around dynasties and capitals and a central command, the Middle Kingdom. It's a very popular concept that you see, at least in the way the story is told. History is written in the way is always geographical, always central. In India, when you don't see Delhi is playing an important role. Delhi becomes important only during the Sultanate. Otherwise, this is southern India, this is eastern India, this is northern India. This story is only in the eastern part of India, the northern part of India, not in the southern part of India. So you'll see a geographical difference because the Rajamandala system is operating in India, very different from the system which is operating in China. You find more scripts in India which are based on phonetics. You have more logographic scripts emerging in China. In China, the tendency is to centralize. In India, it is to diversify. So you see a shift in patterns. When the Mongols come, the sultanates are prevent the Delhi Sultanate Khilji prevents the Mongols from entering India. But in the Mongols control China, the Yuan dynasty emerges. We have heard of Kublai Khan, Marco Polo. Then comes the Ming dynasty, which is more agricultural, does not believe in the cosmopolitan vision of the Mughals. A different world emerges, slightly more conservative. This is when you hear of the famous sailing traditions of China. The great sailing traditions, huge ships traveling all the way to Africa and then being stopped by the central command and going inward. Similar ideas of inward looking is there in India. You have the Brahminical world emerging, which is inward looking, does not like people sailing across the sea, says that your caste will be lost. And you have the Muslim kingdoms emerging, the Mughal kingdoms emerging, roughly around the time the Ming is controlling China. And when the Mings give way to the kings, you have got the Maratha Empire emerging, and finally the British, which play havoc in both these ancient cultures. And in many ways, use the opium grown in India and is sold in China, and thus creating a drought in India because people are not using, they're not growing food to eat. They're growing food for the market, which is opium, which is being sold in China and destroying the Chinese culture in the economy. And you see this dark side, which of course Europe does not want to talk about, and is not part of school textbooks. And then you suddenly see how the world is connected. We are connected during the opium wars. We are connected through the Mongols. We are connected through Tang dynasty. We are connected through Han. We are connected, perhaps there were connections as early as the old elections. So I find this, such conversations, what is happening when Islam rises in the Middle East? What dynasty is working? What's going on? This is where the Battle of the Three Cliffs, a very important story which is told about this period, when the warring period, when the Gupta kings are ruling India. So these are interesting stories. Of course, as I said, this is an approximate diagram. It's not like a historian's mota moti, just to understand at a simple level. But if you want to understand Indian history, you cannot ignore Chinese history, you cannot ignore Western history. You need to know what happens in the world when Persia is ruling, when Alexander is ruling, when Christianity is rising, when Islam is rising, when the Crusades are happening. What is happening in the world during the Crusades? What is happening around the world when the Mongols are coming? What is happening in the world when Europe is becoming powerful and sailing across the sea? How the world changes dramatically. So this is, I think I like discussing the world this way, because you see what's happening around the world. You realize how similar and different India, China, and the West is. There are common things, there are uncommon things. What makes us human and what makes us different, cultured. Chinese culture will be different, Indian culture will be different, Western culture will be different, Japanese culture will be different, African cultures will be different. So there is differences and similarities. And that is what work like this does. We'll discuss this more and more, but I hope you enjoy it.